Alright, so you want to move to Austin, but you're kind of sick of all of these older properties. You want a larger home, you want it to be relatively modern, but you don't want to lose everything you have in order to find a place? Maybe you want to look into Bee Cave. Without compromising on the school system, without too much compromises on distance from downtown, Bee Cave brings a nice value proposition for those who are looking for a more luxurious lifestyle. However, of course it's not perfect, and in this video we're going to dissect it based on our three main criteria: convenience, surroundings, and of course, real estate. Stay tuned and let's find out how Bee Cave stacks against the competition. Bee Cave is a small city located southwest of the border of Austin. It is about 7 square miles of size and only 9,000 people or so. Bee Cave was incorporated in 1987, and the main city it's close to, well, other than Austin, is Lakeway. There are many neighborhoods within the surrounding of Bee Cave. Spanish Oaks is the most luxurious one, but you have Falcon Head and Lake Point and a bunch of others. So let's start ranking the neighborhood, and as always we're going to start with convenience, and in particular shoppings and restaurants. So the main shopping hub of Bee Cave is the Galleria. It is located about 10 minutes away from the neighborhood, and you have pretty much everything. It's like the Domain, but for the west side of Austin. You have restaurants, hotels, shopping centers, groceries, anything that you need, even a farmer's market on the weekend. The Galleria is divided into a south and a north compound. The northern compound is a bit nicer, I think, with most of the restaurants. My local favorites there are going to be the Tadashi restaurant with Japanese cuisine and All Star Burger. But if you're coming with a family, the League Tavern is going to be one of the nicer places to sit. You have a variety of menu items and you can check it out for everybody. There's a nice farmer's market in the Galleria every Saturday. You can check it out with the family. Just be advised you don't have a lot of covered areas, so bring sunscreen if you go there, especially during the summertime. With regards to groceries, you have Whole Foods, H-E-B, Randall's, pretty much anything that you need. So while I like the proximity to the Galleria and all of the abundance of places that you have, you don't have a lot of other places to frequent, so all in all, I'm going to rank it a 4 out of 6. Moving on to transportation, starting with the public transportation, and this one is easy. No, we don't do public transportation in Texas. You've probably seen me saying this several times if you watch my videos. Okay, but putting public transportation aside, let's just talk about transportation routes. So the main road from Bee Cave to Austin is the 71, and then the 71 connects to 360 if you want to go towards Westlake or maybe the northern part of Austin. It also connects to Mopac if you want to drive to downtown. And you can connect to the 290 if you want to drive more eastbound. The other main road is the 620 towards the north. If you want to connect to Steiner Ranch, Cedar Park, or Brushy Creek, that's going to be the main road that you're driving through. And if you've been following my videos, you know that the 620 road is not the greatest. This means that if your friends are living in Cedar Park or Brushy Creek, you're not going to have the most pleasant time driving there, especially if you're doing it through the rush hours. Unlike the northern part of Austin, if you want to drive there faster, you don't have any toll roads, so you have the 71 and the 620 as the main transportation roads. And with the public transportation, I have to give it just a 2 out of 6. It's not great for transportation. Moving on to hub proximity, the Galleria, while having many restaurants, doesn't really have a lot of R&D centers and employment. So if you're going to drive to downtown, where most of the employers are at, you're going to look at anywhere between 30 to 60 minutes, depending on the rush hour and the traffic. If you plan to drive through the Domain, you're going to look at pretty much the same time, 30 to 60 minutes, because you can't really cross Lake Austin unless you're driving all the way southbound through the 360, or northbound through the 620, which is just not the greatest. That's what I mentioned the transportation earlier. But if you just want to hang out with friends and not doing it through the rush hour, 30 minutes is pretty much legit. So all in all, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 6 for hub proximity. All right, moving on to surroundings, starting with the schools. And that is definitely one of the biggest attractions of going to Bee Cave, because you're going to be associated with really great public schools if you look at any ranking system that is available to you. The Lake Travis ISD is ranked 50 in Texas. The elementaries are either Bee Cave or Lake Point, which are rated 8 and 7 respectively right now in 2024 in grade schools. The Bee Cave Middle School is also ranked 8, and Lake Travis High School is ranked right now 6 out of 10, but I recommend looking at the breakdown of the rating to see whether it applies to you or not, because some of these parameters don't really bother people as much as other parameters. If you don't mind private schools and you're into the Waldorf Academy, you have the Austin Waldorf School that takes you anywhere between K to 12, and I know that this is a popular option among some of the people that want to go through this education system. Factoring all of that in, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 6. Moving on to parks and greenery, and it's kind of unique because in the Bee Cave area, some of the neighborhoods are newer, some of them are a bit more established, but when you drive there through the golf courses and the hillside, you're going to see a lot of greenery, a lot of trees. It is extremely beautiful, and the properties are beautiful as well. You have the Falcon Head West Primitive Park, you have the Bee Cave Central Park, and you have some other parks as well. It's very green, and just the surrounding of Bee Cave is just super beautiful and lush. I have to give it a 5 out of 6. One of the nicer areas I feel like for greenery. Moving on to community and crime, and this one is a bit complicated, and I'll explain. From a community perspective, you have a median household income of $160,000, a median age of 37 years of age, and a population that grew between 2018 to 2020, but then kind of stagnated. About 52% of the people own their house in Bee Cave, and generally speaking, based on the input I got from my clients who live there, the community is relatively tight and very friendly. The Galleria has events of its own, and also the HOAs in the area are typically very community oriented. So from a community perspective, it's going strong. But then when we look at the crime rate, I can tell you I was kind of shocked when I look at the data, because Bee Cave in the crime ratings is considered to be yellow when everything surrounding it is very dark green. And admittedly, I was surprised when I looked at it, because that's not what I know from the people who live there. So when I took a deeper look into the data, I think I kind of figured out why it's so. I think it's because of the Galleria. When you have a commercial area, typically it brings people outside of the area, and you have some break-ins and stuff inside this commercial compound. So even though the crime rating is a bit higher than normal in these type of suburbs, I think that it's not because of the neighborhoods, but a bit more because of the commercial area. And I'm going to put the domain here as a point of reference so you can see what happens when you have commercial areas with regards to crime. So with all of that in mind, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 6, even though I kind of think it's a 5, but I have to factor in what I see from the data regarding the crime ratings. I do want to mention, when I spoke to everybody I know in Bee Cave, nobody mentioned anything resembling to that. They have a very similar experience to what I've seen in Cedar Park, in Brushy Creek. All of these areas typically have no crime within the community. Alright, we're done with surroundings and moving on to real estate, starting with affordability. This one is a little bit tricky because I can't say that Bee Cave is super affordable. The properties there are relatively expensive. As an example, the average sales price in the adjacent area, Lakeway, is $720,000, while in Bee Cave it's almost $1.1 million. The average price per square feet in Lakeway is about $297, while the average price per square feet in Bee Cave is about $313. So the difference doesn't look that high, but you need to remember that the properties in Bee Cave are larger in size, and that's why they are more expensive. Having said all of that, when you factor in the value that you're getting for your money, I feel like you get relatively a great value for the money, because when I look at the $1 to $1.2 million property in Bee Cave and then I compare them to other suburban areas, typically the structure is a bit better. But again, with all of that, I can't call it affordable and I have to give it a 3 out of 6. Moving on to scarcity. And I'm going to compare Bee Cave to two other neighborhoods that I see that people are cross-shopping with, Steiner Ranch and the Creeks in Cedar Park. And while you look at the data, you can see you have less properties sold on Bee Cave, you have less properties active on the market, and you don't have a lot of people that are moving from the area. I think it's one of these areas that you move into and you don't really move out of. While you do have some new development there, you don't have tons of room to grow, especially not within the neighborhoods themselves. You do have a bunch of land in the hill country, but it's not really Bee Cave. So when I factor all of that in, I have to give it a 5 out of 6. Land is relatively scarce when you look into Bee Cave. Moving on to density, and Bee Cave is relatively spacious. Most of the neighborhoods have larger lots, larger backyards, they are more spaced out, especially if you go into the more luxurious properties, but not only those. Expect to have a relatively large property if you're going to live in Bee Cave. Most of the inventory is between 3,000 to 4,000 square feet of size. Lots are typically over 0.2, even 0.25 acres. So with all of that in mind, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 6. Moving on to character, and as you know, one of the toughest ones to rank. Bee Cave is comprised of many different neighborhoods. Most of the houses look different from one another, and you have various type of communities and properties. You have a bunch of greenery, you have hillside, you got tons of character. And when you drive through Falcon Head or Lake Point or Bee Cave, like all of these neighborhoods, they look different from one another. The houses look very pretty in my opinion. And I like having all of the greenery and the hillside. So when I factor all of that and take it into mind, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 6. All right, so when we factor all of these parameters and we look at Bee Cave, what do we actually see? Like a typical suburb, the convenience factor isn't very high. The proximity to the Galleria is helping, but the roads, the transportation, isn't really great, and it brings the score down by quite a bit. But then when we look at surroundings and real estate, we see why people are looking at Bee Cave seriously. The surroundings department took a slight hit due to the crime rating that might or might not be based on the Galleria, but the real estate score is relatively high. Other than not being very affordable, it scores high in everything else. So who would be the typical family who's going to look seriously into Bee Cave? I think people who are looking for a newer house, for a bit more of a luxurious house, that are willing to put the price into that, and that are willing to be a bit more distant from the main hubs. For this type of family, Bee Cave is one of the better suburbs to look at. However, if you want to be very close to the main hubs, or if you're trying to get something more affordable, Bee Cave might not be the best option for you. Remember, real estate is a bit more than just looking at Zillow and seeing a bunch of pretty houses and picking one randomly. You need to figure out what is the best fit for you, your situation, your family, and your preferences. That's why we have this series of video, but when all is said and done, there's nothing better than consulting with somebody who knows it in and out. So if you want to speak with me, reach out to me. You have my contact information below. I would love to get to know you, understand your situation, and try to help and guide and value add to your journey for purchasing a home. What did you agree with? What did you not agree with? And what are the next neighborhoods that I should cover in the series of these Ranking Austin videos? If you found any value in this content, please drop a like. It really helps tremendously. And if you want to reach out to me, please do that. You have my contact information below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. If you're going to bank on public transportation, just don't. It's Texas here. Get a truck. I'm kidding. EVs are the best.